It's good to be here. Ooh, it is good to be here. Is it getting better? All right. Many of you speak English. You know that when we get to heaven, we'll all speak Chinese.
可能我哋去到天國嘅時候，我哋個個都講中文嘅，係咪啊？
I will be outside the New Jerusalem for 1,000 years while I'm learning to speak Chinese.
可能我哋要用成千年，即係喺個新耶路撒冷出邊成千年喺度學中文啊！我要。
This is my first time to Hong Kong.
我係第一次嚟香港。
Pastor Alphon Fong is showing me the entire city.
咁啊，早前咁啊，馮牧師就帶我喺香港兜咗幾圈，
I'm having a wonderful time,
所以我好開心啊！
but I understand I'm here for this right now.
不過我知道咧，呢個時候喺呢度咧，我要嚴肅地分享。
Pastor Fong mentioned that I teach for Andrews University.
馮牧師啱就提到話咧，我喺安德烈大學教書。
How many of you have been there?
有邊幾位係去過安德烈讀書㗎？
Quite a few.
都唔少。
I don't live there.
我唔係住喺嗰度嘅。
Then how do I teach?
咁如果我唔係住喺嗰度，咁我點喺嗰度教書咧？
I live in California, not in Michigan.
因為我住喺加州㗎，我唔係住喺密芝根。
And I only teach 2 weeks out of the year.
每一年咧，我只不過喺嗰度教2個星期嘅啫。
It's an intensive.
咁即係話咧係密集式嘅教學。
It's for people like Pastor Fong who are in full-time ministry.
我嘅學生咧就好似阿馮牧師咁樣啦，佢哋係有全職嘅工作嘅。
And before we meet together, they have to do a lot of reading of other books.
所以其實咧，當我哋係見面之前咧，佢哋讀好多書，要投好多本書嘅。
And then we meet at Andrews University or some other place for 2 weeks.
咁跟住咧，我哋可能會喺安德烈咧面對面咧係2個星期，或者可能要喺另外啲地方見面嘅。
And after those 2 weeks, they have 10 months of other assignments they have to do before they finish the class.
咁啊，見咗2個星期面之後咧，佢哋要用10個月嘅時間咧去忙碌地做佢哋嘅功課嘅。
And they do that back where they're doing ministry.
咁即係話佢哋翻去自己地方啦，做佢哋嘅工作同埋讀佢哋嘅書。
Pastor Fong has finished all of his coursework.
咁馮牧師咧已經完成晒佢嘅需要讀嘅科目啦。
We could give him a degree right now that is called an ABD.
咁其實咧，如果頒發證書嘅話，都可以頒發俾佢 ABD 嘅學位嘅。
ABD stands for all but dissertation.
咁啊 ABD 咧即係英文嘅縮寫，即係話咧所有嘅科目完成，就除咗寫論文。
But he is working on it.
佢而家係努力喺做緊佢嘅論文。
And we are going to talk about it some more while I'm here if I get a chance.
所以我喺度嘅時候咧，我哋會把握時間咧，會同佢傾多啲關於佢嘅論文嘅問題。
I'm glad to be here.
好高興大家可以喺呢度。
And thank you for translating for me.
多謝有人騷擾佢。
We are here. We need to go to the whole screen. You're there. Give me a timeout. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, now we can go full screen. Yep, thanks. First of all, a story.
首先有一個故事。
When I arrived in Hong Kong yesterday, I looked on my computer and there was a message from the church that I attend.
咁當我嚟到香港嘅時候咧，我打開我嘅電腦咧，我就見到一個喺美國嚟嘅一個信息。
Even though I am a pastor, I am not pastoring a church right now.
咁個信息係嚟自一個教會嘅，雖然我唔係一個牧養教會嘅一個牧長， 但係我就同教會好有密切關係。
I travel around to where I'm invited, and if I were pastoring, I would be neglecting my church.
因為如果我冇一個教會嘅話咧，咁我又周圍去即係分享信息㗎嘛，咁我就會疏忽咗我所屬嘅堂會。
But I'm still a member of that church.
但係我仍然係嗰個堂會嘅一個信徒，一個教友。
So I received the newsletter from our church for this week on my computer.
所以我就每次咧都會喺我嘅即係電腦裏邊咧會收到堂會俾我嘅信息。
They had a picture of a family that has just joined our church.
咁原來有一個新嘅家庭咧，啱啱係加入教會嘅。
A mother, a father, and 3 children.
咁啊，兩夫婦啦，同埋3個細路。
And it reminded me of my own story.
咁當我見到嗰個信息嘅時候咧，就提醒到我自己嘅家庭。
I come from a family with a mother and father and 4 children.
咁我嚟自嘅家庭就我有2個父母啦，咁同埋我哋有4兄弟姊妹。
My father sold real estate houses.
咁我阿爸咧係係有賣屋嘅。
And my mother was a nurse.
咁我阿媽咧係個護士。
They joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church when they finished high school.
佢哋讀完中學咧，佢哋就成為本會嘅信徒。
They went to college, got married, and moved to California.
咁佢哋讀大學嘅時候就結婚，跟住就搬去加州。
1, 2, 3, 4 children.
1、2、3、4，生咗4個。
I'm the only boy.
咁4個裏邊咧，我係唯一嘅男仔。
I know what the time of trouble is like.
我知道咧，身為一個四個即係姊妹裏邊，我係唯一一個男士嘅時候咧，有好多痛苦嘅。
So they had 2 girls, and then me, and then 1 more was supposed to be a boy, but it came out a girl.
2個家姐啦，跟住到我啦喎，諗住會有一個細路啦，點知唔係喎，係個細妹。
Whenever the doors of the church would open up, our family would be there.
教堂嘅門一開，我哋全家就會入嚟㗎啦。
It was like I was a pastor's kid.
就好似咧，我係一個牧師嘅細路咁樣。
We were always at church.
因為我哋每次都會喺教會裏邊。
My parents sent us to the Adventist school.
咁我父母就送我哋去自己教會嘅學校。
And then they moved because they wanted their children to go to an Adventist academy.
咁跟住咧，佢哋搬屋喎，點解咧？要將佢哋送去啲好嘅中學。
And where they lived, there was only a primary school that was Adventist.
因為原本住嘅地方咧，只有小學啊嘛，咁所以讀中學嘅時候咪搬屋送我哋去中學。
I didn't know it at the time, but my parents were putting their children first.
咁原來當時我又唔識啦，原來我個父母將我哋細路仔係放為即係最重要嘅地位。
I just thought that was normal.
我以為呢個係普通嘅事啫。
And so we moved because of the children.
所以原來咧，我哋搬屋咧就係父母因為我哋細路嘅原因。
There were about 10 Adventist churches in the city we moved to.
咁我哋搬到去嘅城鎮咧，嗰度就有10家我哋本會嘅信徒。
And they said, we will visit all 10 churches, and then we'll decide which one is the best church for our family.
We have 10 churches. 咁我搬去城鎮裏邊咧有10間教會，咁所以我父母就會揾啦，但係邊間教會咧係最適合我哋嘅。
We went to our first day of school.
咁我哋第一日返學咧
People were friendly.
咁啊啲人都係幾友善。
And my oldest sister said, let's go to the Carmichael church.
咁我嘅家姐就話，不如我哋去另外一間教會啊。
So my parents said, we'll go to the Carmichael church first.
OK， 咁我哋就去嗰間教會睇睇先。
We went there, and that church was very involved with the Adventist school, and we never went to any other church. We went to that one church. It was very involved with the school, and so we never went to another church.
咁因為我哋去到嗰個教會咧，嗰個教會佢哋係同嗰個學校咧有好密切關係嘅，所以我哋去到嗰個教堂之後咧，我哋都唔使去第二間教會啦，因為大家都關係好密切嘅。
My parents wanted to make sure that their children were involved in the Adventist school, in the Adventist church, in the Adventist family.
因為我嘅父母咧好關心我哋咧，又能夠係即係喺嗰個教堂裏邊又會係好參與，學校又好參與，同埋咧喺其他嘅家庭咧都好參與。
That is my background.
咁呢個就係我背景嚟嘅。
I don't know what your background is. It might be similar, it might be different.
咁可能你嘅背景會同我一樣都唔出奇啦。
But whether you come from a family like mine, or a family of one, or a family of all boys, there is something we have in common.
咁或者你係嚟自大家庭嘅，可能你屋企裏邊只有一個嘅，咁無論點樣都好咧，咁我哋大家都有啲學習嘅。
Sometimes we can see it, and sometimes we can't see it.
有陣時我哋會睇到好多嘢，但係有時我哋有好多嘢唔明白嘅。
Let me illustrate it this way.
咁讓我哋解釋一下，
We have one dot,
喺呢度有一點，
but on the other side we have 4 dots.
咁另外一邊咧就有4個黑點，
But on this side we have 3 dots,
咁但係另一邊咧有3個黑點，
and the other side we have 6 dots.
咁另一邊咧有6個點。
It all depends on what you're looking at, right?
咁所以其實咧睇你點睇嘅啫嘛，我遮喺邊度，唔遮喺邊度。
You're looking at me strange. Our mind does strange things to us.
所以其實咧，我哋睇嘢嘅時候咧，我哋嘅腦筋啊喺度俾我哋會想像到唔同嘅嘢喺度。
I told you there are 6 dots here.
嗱，我話俾你6點啊嘛，
Do you see 6?
你有冇見到6點啊？
I told you there are 4 dots here.
咁我話俾你有4點啊嘛，
Do you see 4?
你有冇見到4點啊？
Yes. Do your eyes deceive you? Do your eyes deceive you?
你眼見嘅係咪就係真嘅咧？
It's really 5 dots.
咁其實咧係得5點嘅啫。
But if I say 4, you believe me. I'm a pastor.
但係我係牧師啊嘛，係咪啊？我話俾你係4點嘅時候，咪4點咯。
And if I say 6, you believe me because I'm a pastor.
咁如果我咁樣俾你睇話6點嘅時候咧，你又要信我係6點喎。
And this side has how many dots?
呢度有幾點啊？
1.
1點啊。
But I told you 3.
但係話俾你3點得唔得？
How many are there?
幾點啊？
2. So our brain does silly things to us, doesn't it?
所以有時嘅我哋嘅腦咧會話俾你聽啲傻嘢嘅。
So this side has 2 dots.
呢邊得2點。
How many are on the other side?
咁你話後邊嘅幾點啊？
5, right.
5點啫。
So
係咩？5點咩？
4, 5.
啊，所以任你嘅啫嘛。
I guess there's 6 on this side.
咦？有6點喎。
And we have 2 on the other side.
後邊2點。
Sometimes what we see is not real.
所以有陣時你見到未必係真嘅，係咪啊？
So we started with 2 on one side and 5 on the other.
所以原本係2同5啊嘛，係咪？
And we ended up with 3 on one side
跟住咧就
and
3
6 on the other.
同6啊，係咪啊？
I am not satanic. I am not satanic.
我唔係魔鬼㗎。
Okay, it's your turn.
好啊，輪到你啦。
We're going to try some numbers with you.
我哋要試下你關於數目嘅問題。
I need for you to stand,
大家一齊起立。
and I need for you to get with one other person to be a partner just for a moment. This is not marriage. This is just for a moment. Find a partner.
咁揾一個同伴。
If you don't have a partner, move out to the
如
aisle
果你揾唔
and
到
get a
嘅話咧，
partner.
就你可以行出嚟，就呢兩個一對對。
And if you're in the aisle, find another person in the aisle, and you two become partners.
總之你就揾一對一對嘅。
Is
兩個一
anybody
對
missing a partner? You need a partner.
個個都揾到嘛？
Okay, I want you to face each other,
可能面對面啊，
and then I want you to take your 2 hands
可能
and put them by your ears like this.
係啦，舉手好似佢咁嘅樣，面對面嘅。
Okay, go ahead and look at me again.
可能
I
望
want
住
you
我
to
先。
choose how many fingers you want to put up.
咁你就
0,
任
1, 2, however many you want.
就隨便你任挑選你想舉幾多個手指，
Do you have them?
諗定。
Now I want you to count how many fingers there are between you and your partner, and what is the number?
咁我就要你咧即刻望住對方嘅時候咧，同埋加你自己總共有幾多個手指。
The number of both of you.
兩個數目都加埋啊！你嘅手指，你動起嘅手指，
Do you have it?
驅動嘅手指。
Okay, put your hands down.
好，放低你嘅手。
Now I want you to think of a different number.
OK， 嗱，你自己依家咧就喺度諗定啲數目啦，
Put it up by your ears.
跟住擺喺你，
What is the total of both of your numbers?
即刻數你同你對方嘅手指總共幾多手指，總共幾多隻
Okay, hands down.
？OK， 快低，
We're going to do it one more time.
再嚟一次啦啊！
It's going to be harder
會難啲啦，難度高啲啦。
because I'm going to have you turn around
好啦，
back to back.
擰轉面啦，背對背，背對背。
Put your hands up,
你嘅手指按照你中意嘅數目，
and when I count to 3, you
What?
will turn around,
我
And you-
數1、2、3之後，
see who comes up with the number first.
擰住面就睇下邊個數到個總數先。
It has to be the correct number.
咁啊睇下係咪啱嘅。
And if you get it first, you win.
如果你邊個估啱先咧，你就贏咗。
And then I'll tell you what you win. Are you ready?
準備好，
1, 2, 3, turn around.
數。
If you have the wrong number, you lost.
估錯數目嘅，數錯數目嘅咧，咁你就輸啦。
Raise your hand if you got the right number first.
贏嘅，
Okay.
猜到先嘅。
If you got the right number first and you're on this side, I want you to come up to the front corner here.
嗱，數贏嘅，企呢度；
If you did not get it first, go to the back.
輸嘅，企嗰
This
邊；
side, if you got it right, come to the front over here.
贏嘅企呢邊，
And
輸
if
嘅
you
企
got
嗰
it
邊。
wrong, go to the back. If you were slower.
唔係
So
唔
we're
係，
gonna
你
have four
哋喺
groups.
呢邊嘅，贏嘅就企呢邊，輸嘅企嗰邊；喺呢邊嘅咧，贏嘅企呢邊，輸嘅企嗰邊。贏嘅喺呢邊，輸嘅喺嗰邊。
So we should now have what you see on the screen.
What is this in the middle？
I don't know.
點解喺中間嘅？
If you were on this side and you lost, go back to the corner. If you were on this side and you lost, you go back to that
喺
corner.
嗰邊係啦 ，OK。
Okay. There we have it. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and Group 4.
好
Correct?
1、2、3、4啊，冇5。
Okay. I want your group to have a discussion as a group.
咁你哋每一組咧，大家要討論一下一陣間，
And this is the question.
留意個問題：
What is the gospel?
何為福音？乜嘢係福音？
I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to discuss it in your group.
3分鐘，你哋即刻討論一下乜嘢叫做福音。
Ready? Begin.
好，開始啦！乜嘢叫做福音？一齊討論。
You already have it? You have it?
第4組有啦，係
Do you
咪？
have it? Group 2?
第2
Yeah.
組、
Group 3, do you have it?
第3組。
You don't need. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Americans. It takes them longer.
美國人似乎會用長啲時間嚟討論噶嘛。
Okay, you've been in a group, right? You realize there are 3 other groups here besides yours?
好啦，嗱，每一組咧，你都知道你另外有3組人啊。
I'd like for you to wave to the people in the other groups.
咁每一組咧都向其他3組揮手，
Smile at them.
要微笑地揮手。
Okay, that's good. Now, I want your group to pick out one person who will be a missionary to go tell another group what the gospel is.
好啦，嗱，你哋呢一組咧，你嗰組啊，就揾另外一組咧，就派一個傳道士去另一組去報道。
One person,
一個人，
just one person,
每一個人啊，
just one person.
每一個人。
So let me know when you have your missionary. Each group has one missionary. I will tell them where to go. Not until I tell them. So I need to find out who is their missionary. You're the missionary?
好啦，派咗一個出嚟，佢做報道士。
Who's the missionary?
你哋嗰組邊個係？
Right there? Okay. Who's the missionary back here? Right there? Okay. Here are the instructions for the missionary.
好，嗱，留意啦。
When I tell you to go, you're going to go to that group, and you're going to come to this group. You will go to that group, and you will come to this group. But the missionary does all the talking. The group can say nothing. You just have to listen to the missionary. You might think the missionary is right. You might think the missionary is wrong. You might think the missionary is crazy. But only the missionary can talk.
好，每一組咪有一個報道士嘅係咪？你派到去嗰邊講嘅時候咧，只有佢講，你哋冇得講㗎。咁就盡量聽佢講乜嘢。
And missionary, you're going to have to look at their faces and find out, did your message come across and did you convince them?
咁嗰個報道士就要留意啦喎，你喺度講嘢嘅時候咧，留意睇佢哋聽唔聽得明你講乜嘢。
I was going to give you 60 seconds, but because you're from Hong Kong, you only need half that time.
原本諗住派你哋去講1分鐘，點解知你香港人係好快噶嘛？半分鐘夠啦。
Missionaries, go!
好，係。
You have more time than you need. The gospel is quick. Time is up. Go back to your group. Please give a report to your group as to how many people you converted.
咁問一問啦，啱先你去到嗰度嘅時候咧，你哋已經有幾多人咧係已經信主嘅？有幾多個悔改啦？
Okay, let's ask group 1. Missionary from group 1. Missionary from group 1. You went to group 3. How many of them believe your message? All of them.
好嘢喎，全部啊，全部啲人都接受啊。
How many of you believe her? Okay, group 2. How many of them believe your message? All.
哇！
How many of you believe? Okay. Group 3. How many believe your message? All of them. Did you all believe her? Yes! Okay. How many of them believe your message? Which means, I don't know. How many of you believe his message? Oh, they were smiling. Okay. You are group 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you now to form a group of 4 people. One person from group 1, one from group 2, group 3, group 4. So walk around with or 3, understand? And once you have all 4, then just sit down anywhere and move the chairs around and talk about the gospel together.
一成為一組4個人，就揾個地方坐低，會討論一啲嘢。
So stay where you are. Let's bring one person, one person, one person, one person. Come to the middle.
任選，一，跟住4人一組。
Once you have your 4, find a place to sit down. Okay, what do we have? 4? What do we have here? Another 4? We have all 4s. Okay. Who needs a 4? Who needs a 4? Fine. Here they come. You have 4? Three, 4, 1, and a 2. Okay. Any more 2s? Any more 2s? You know what? We're going to make you a group anyway. And take these 2 with you. In your group, each of you needs to explain what the gospel is.
嗱，你哋每一組咧就要認真去討論一下，到底乜嘢係福音？
What do you agree with? What do you disagree with?
咁你哋就要討論下咧，你同意啊，或者唔同意。
Question. Your group, just the 4
就
of you.
喺你哋4個人嗰組裏邊，大家要同意嘅係乜嘢，唔同意嘅係乜嘢？討論咧。
Some of them come in afterwards. We have one lady by herself. If there are others that are coming in, they could join her. If there's anybody that's not in a group of 4, they could join her. 30 seconds left. 30 seconds.
仲有半秒鐘，半分鐘。Done.
And time.
好，夠鐘。
Go ahead and turn your turn your chairs to face the front.
咁大家可以面對住呢度，
Stay with your group.
但係唔好離開你嘅組別。
If there's anybody who is not in a group of 4, we have one person left out here. Who else has come in is not part of a group of 4?
呢度有單獨有一位，有冇人係唔夠數嘅可以抽腳？
You have 3 over there?
嗰度有3個人咧，嗰度有3個人。
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to come back to your group of 4, but I want to share something with you before I do that. It's like I need you to put in the clutch because we're going to shift to another gear.
咁我哋咧就要轉下速噶啦喎，留意下咁啊！你可能而家要叫做 break 住先啊，咁樣陣間會行快啲嘅。
We're going to change the topic from what is the gospel to another topic.
咁你就轉一轉題目好嘛？
And that is 4 different kinds of church.
咁就係我哋咧，其實教會咧有4種唔同嘅教會。
The first one I'm going to call mono-generational.
第一種嘅教會咧就係叫做單一嘅單代一代嘅教會。
This would be a church that the people within the church come from just one generation.
咁即係話咧，佢哋嚟到呢個教會嘅時候咧，呢個教會裏邊嘅啲年齡層咧係一代人嘅。
In my country, we have a lot of those churches.
喺我自己嘅教會咧就有多代嘅唔同嘅代。
And the generation is mainly older people.
咁即係話咧，我哋咧都有多啲嘅年紀多啲長者嘅。
And people say, in 10 years, there will be no more church there.
嗱，如果佢係單獨一代係年紀大嘅咧，咁過多幾年咧就冇人㗎啦喎。
Because that one generation will all be dead.
因為得一代啫嘛，死晒啦。
There are other mono-generational churches.
咁另外一種嘅單一代嘅人咧，
My background is in youth ministry.
嗱，我嘅事工咧就係青年事工。
And we sometimes start a church with just young adults.
咁好多時候咧，我哋開始我哋嘅教會嘅時候咧，我哋就係嗰啲叫做青壯。
We have good music.
我哋有好嘅音樂，
We have lights.
我哋有燈，
We don't have any children.
我哋冇細路，
We don't have to have any children's story.
我哋唔中意有細路嘅，
And no old people
唔中意老人家嘅。
who say, we've never done it this way before.
我哋以前唔會係咁樣嘅，
We're just going to be a cool church of young adults.
我哋就淨係我哋呢班好叻嘅單一代嘅青壯，
Yeah.
我哋最中意咁樣噶啦。
It's another example of a mono-generational church.
呢個咧就係呢個意思啦，單獨一代嘅一個教會。
You know what happens to that church in 5 to 10 years?
咁5年10年之後，你估會點樣咧？
They have to have a children's ministry because they start having babies.
因為咧，佢哋結咗婚之後，佢哋有細路噶嘛，於是佢哋就要揾啲兒童事工噶啦喎。
And before, they used to stay up Friday night until midnight or 1 o'clock talking and having hot drinks.
嗱，以前嘅時候咧，佢哋就可以傾到3更半夜，飲下啲熱茶咁樣。
And now they're at home putting their kids to bed
而
at
家唔得咯，
6 or 7 o'clock.
而家咧6、7點就要氹啲細路瞓覺噶啦嘛。
And they're too tired. They can't get up at midnight unless the baby wakes them up.
氹完細路瞓覺，自己都好攰啦。
And they're no longer a mono-generational church. They have 2 generations.
咁呢個時候咧就唔係單一代啦嘛，係咪啊？已經有多代啦。
But you understand what I mean by a mono-generational church?
所以你明白我咩意思啦？即係單一代嘅教會係點樣嘅意思？
Just one generation in the church.
一代嘅。
Let's go to a second kind of church.
咁我哋就去到第二種教會啦。
We're going to call this
咁呢個咧就
multi-generational.
係多代嘅啦。
That means there is more than one generation.
咁就話多過一代啦。
2, 3, 4, 5 generations.
可能有3、4、5代都唔出奇嘅喎。哇，好大年紀喎，5代。
There are several generations in one church.
咁即係話咧，一個教裏邊咧就有幾代同堂。
But each of those generations operates by themselves.
不過咧，佢每一代咧係自己喺度活動嘅。
We say that they are in silos.
即係話佢哋好似嗰個叫做嗰個谷倉咧， 一個個單獨嘅谷倉，一個谷倉就係一眾嘅谷，另一個谷倉咧又佢自己單獨一個谷倉。
This is very common in a large church.
嗱呢個咧喺即係大教裏邊咧，呢個係常見一種嘅情況。
The church that I attend has 600 or 700 people on Sabbath.
我自己嘅教會咧就有600-700人嘅聚會嘅地方。
And we say we are intergenerational.
咁我哋就話，我哋自稱啊話，我哋係代際嘅教會，
But we're not.
其實唔係啊，
We're multi-generational
我哋咧只不過係多代嘅啫，獨立存在嘅多代。
because we have a children's pastor
因為咧佢哋咧就有一個兒童嘅叫做牧師，
who's a pastor to the families with young children.
因為呢個牧師咧係專責負責呢個兒童事工。
We have a youth pastor.
我哋有一個青年嘅牧師，
He's the pastor for the teenagers who don't like their parents anymore.
佢咧就係專係負責嗰啲10零歲嘅，
And the
唔中意有
parents
父
are
母喺嗰度嘅。
frustrated with them too. The parents are frustrated with the teenagers too.
尤其是父母咧都好唔知點樣處理呢班10零歲嘅細路嘅。
We have a young adult pastor.
咁跟住我哋有啲青壯嘅牧師啦，
And then we have a senior pastor.
跟住咧有一個係叫做專係睇住啲長者嘅牧師啊。
And each one has their own congregation within the one big church.
咁佢哋個別咧有自己哋服侍或者侍奉嘅對象。
We have a separate youth church once a quarter.
咁每一季咧，佢哋都有自己嘅崇拜聚會。
We have a Pathfinder program for the children
咁當然啦，我哋有前鋒會啦，係俾啲細路噶嘛，
that nobody else participates in.
咁冇其他人參與噶，淨係細路嘅啫。同埋有一個
That's
嗰
a
個牧師，
multi-generational church.
所以佢係多代嘅堂會。
And then we have the cross-generational church.
跟住一個係跨代嘅教會。
In a cross-generational church, you have at least 2 generations, but one is dominant and the other one is submissive.
嗱，跨代嘅時候咧，佢就可能會超過2代嘅，但係佢有其中一代嘅人咧係叫做主導晒所有嘅堂會嘅事工。
We did that with our 4 groups.
咁嗱，我哋啱先咪有分晒組別嘅。
Do you remember that when you were in your one group, it was like you were a mono-generational church?
咁你有冇留意到咧？當我哋啱先分晒4組嘅時候咧，呢個就似乎係乜嘢啊？喺個堂裏邊咧有一個一代嘅。
And then when you sent your missionary across the room, that was like a cross-generational church where one is dominant and the rest have to just sit there and listen.
咁但係當你咧派咗一位嘅傳道士去嗰度嘅時候咧，由佢講晒啊嘛，咁即係話對
There
於
are,
佢嚟講咧，呢個就主導嘅嗰個組別啦，佢主導嘅。
this
佢
is
如果派嗰度嘅話咧，佢就主導嘅。
This is most common in a church where the adults want to make sure the children turn out just like they are.
咁好多時候咧，你會見到呢個就係常見嘅教嘅情況啦。咁就話咧，嗰啲即係比較係有年長人咧，咁佢就會管住啲細路，唔想啲細路亂咁嚟。
So they tell the children to sit still and be quiet and listen.
所以靜靜地坐喺度聽我哋講，
And we're going to tell you everything you need to know.
你需要知道嘅咧，就由得我哋會教你哋。
You don't really have anything to offer to us because we're adults
你係冇咩可以貢獻嘅，因為我哋係大人，
and we already know everything.
我哋知道我哋乜嘢都知道，所以我哋教你。
Even though we have forgotten many things from our childhood.
咁其實好多時候我哋都忘記到好多樣嘢噶嘛，佢哋學咗好多嘢嘅。
Okay. And then we had getting into groups of 4 people.
嗱，跟住咧，我哋咪分晒4組，四個人一組，四個人一組啊嘛。
We took the 4 groups and mixed them together.
我將你哋即係從大組裏邊抽咗出嚟，咁就變成4人一組，4人一組。
When you do that with age groups in your church, you have an intergenerational church.
咁當因為你咁樣抽樣去即係組起嚟嘅時候咧，你見到啲年紀就唔分噶啦，所以變成咧係即係多代啲人喺一個小組裏邊。
Multiple generations engaged intentionally and mutually in one church.
咁呢種咁樣嘅多代喺一齊有互動嘅時候咧，佢哋係叫做咧刻意地 而且係相互地係參與埋一齊嘅。
The two key words I want to pick out are mutually and intentionally.
咁所以喺呢個咁樣嘅叫做代際嘅嗰個組別裏邊咧，我想大家留意兩個重要嘅詞語，就係刻意地
We
同埋
did that.
相互地。
We did that with our 4 groups, right?
咁嗱，開頭嘅時候我哋咪有4組嘅，
We said, get together, one person from each group.
我哋有冇話一個出嚟，一個出嚟，一個出嚟，一個出嚟？
We were intentional about that.
嗱，呢個我哋係刻意地去咁樣策劃嘅。
It was not very efficient.
咁有陣時咧都未必係話有達到你想達到嘅後果。
But more people got to participate.
咁但係你起碼都多啲人可以參與啊嘛。
It would be much more efficient if you bring somebody from the United States and have that person tell you what the gospel is.
你想啲事工可以容易去成就嘅話咧，你咪喺美國請一個人翻嚟話俾你聽係點做咯。
But you're actually going to get much more out of it if you tell each other what the gospel is.
但係其實啊，如果我哋可以係大家喺有唔同嘅代裏邊，大家互相嘅嗰個溝通嘅話咧，你學到嘅嘢可能仲多。
Because now you have input from more people.
因為咧，你有好多人大家都貢獻。
But this assumes a major change in our orientation.
但係呢個咧就帶嚟一個問題，就係話我哋一定要去改變。
We live in a world of experts.
我哋其實身處嘅環境咧係有好多專家。
So I was introduced to you not as Pastor Case, but as Dr. Case. I was introduced as not Pastor Case, but Dr. Case.
當我被介紹嘅時候咧，咁就介紹我係奇博士啊嘛，就唔係奇牧師喎。
That's supposed to make you go, oh.
咁樣介紹我係奇博士陣，就話哇
I'm sure when he speaks, God is going to speak to us.
哇，肯定上帝會透過佢同我哋講嘢㗎啦。
What if I have 2 doctorates?
但如果我有2個博士學位咧？
What if I have 40 years of experience? What if I have 40 years of experience?
又或者我有40年嘅經驗咧？
What if I have baptized more than 1,000 people?
又或者我曾經幫1000人浸禮咧？
I'm an expert, right?
咁我咪專家咯。
You are so fortunate to have me here.
你好幸運啊！我可以喺度同你哋講嘢啊！
That is the way of the world.
世界就係咁樣睇法嘅。
The crucial thing is not if I am here, but if God is here.
但係最重要咧就唔係我喺度啊，係上帝喺度。
And if God is here, who is God going to speak through?
咁如果上帝喺度嘅話咧，呢個上帝會點樣同我哋講嘢？
Anyone?
Yeah.
But I'm Dr. Case.
但係我係奇博士喎，
Could God only speak through me?
上帝淨係透過我講嘢？
It might be easier for God to speak through somebody else than instead of speaking through me.
有陣時上帝會發覺到咧，有陣時我哋會發覺到咧，上帝會透過另外一啲人講嘢，仲容易過透過佢講嘢俾我哋聽嘅。
Because I think I'm so important and so smart that God has to speak through me.
因為好多時候我哋就以為我好叻，所以上帝一定要透過我講嘢。
And God can speak through a child.
其實上帝會透過兒童講嘢嘅。
God can speak through a person with dementia.
有陣時咧，嗰啲係有咩病啊？痴呆症嘅人啊，都會透過佢同我哋講嘢嘅。
And if you want to go with a biblical example,
如果你要攞聖經嘅例子嘅話，
this will not translate very well, but I'll say it in English anyway.
嗱呢個咧就唔容易翻譯嘅，不過我都係嘗試用英文同大家講。
According to the Bible in the King James Version,
按照
English Bible, King James Version,
英文嘅就係英文嘅版本啊，有咁樣嘅翻譯。
God speaks through asses. Asses, donkeys.
上帝透過一隻驢同我哋講嘢。
Doesn't translate the same, does it? No. but you know enough English that you know what I said. He does?
上帝會透過隻雷同我哋講嘢。
Who did he speak through?
其實佢同
Balaam's
佢透過咩講嘢？
ass.
佢透過巴蘭同我哋講嘢嘛。
The New International Version calls it a donkey.
嗱，我哋英文版本咧就話佢透過嗰隻雷同我哋講嘢。
So if God can speak through a donkey, could he speak through any human being he wanted to?
嗱，如果上帝真係能夠透過雷同我哋講嘢嘅話咧，咁上帝會唔會透過我哋任何一個人講嘢啊？
That's a different orientation than having only an expert.
係咪淨係專家先能夠同我哋講嘢咧？
Okay, in your group of 4,
好啦，我哋又嚟到4人小組啦。
I want you to discuss among yourselves which one of these best describes your church.
咁睇睇我哋自己本身嘅教會咧，係屬於邊一種教會？傾一傾啊，
I'll give you 2 minutes. Go ahead.
2分鐘，講下我哋自己身處嘅教會係屬於邊一種嘅教會？
Cards and pencils, and we need to give 2 of them to every set of 4 people. In other words,
Each group 2.
each group 2 pencils, 2 papers. And I don't know who the person is that can distribute that.
I think we can ask 2 groups to do that.
Okay? We'll do it in a moment. $30 seconds, 30 seconds. You thought. All right, let's find out.
好，我哋試下了解下。
Raise your hand if you describe your church as mono-generational. Do we have any mono-generational
邊
churches
邊
here?
個位舉手？你係屬於單代嘅教會嘅，
Okay,
單
just a
代
few.
嘅教會。
Okay, thank you. Raise your hand if you describe your church as
多
multi-generational.
代嘅，好多代嘅。
Okay, quite a few. Are those large churches?
你哋所屬嘅多代嘅教會係咪大教會嚟㗎？
It's more common if it's a large church.
因為多數啲大教會係咁樣嘅情況嘅。
How many say your church is cross-generational?
跨代嘅咧，
Okay. And how many say your church is intergenerational?
代際嘅咧，
Most small churches, if they're not monogenerational, are intergenerational because they have to be.
有啲教會咧，佢冇辦法嘅，佢一定要代祭嘅喎。
If you're breathing, you have to be involved in the church. Are breathing.
因為如果你係有生好多嘅話咧，咁你一定要係咪啊？即係代祭㗎啦嘛。
So small churches tend to be intergenerational. And then if you are intentional about it, you can be intergenerational.
除非你真係刻意啦，咁你嘅教會就可以係代祭嘅。
And most churches do some things intergenerationally, but not everything.
咁有啲教會咧，佢哋會嘗試喺部分嘅事工裏邊咧可以代祭，但係未必話咧全部嘅事工都可以代祭。
I would say if less than half of your church activities do not include all generations, then you're not intergenerational.
嗱，如果我哋嗰個教裏邊咧，有啲事工咧冇辦法做到代祭嘅時候咧，其實你都唔可以講話你係個代祭教會嘅。
Why be intergenerational?
所以點解代祭係咁重要一回事咧？
When Jesus returns, he is not going to say, was your church intergenerational?
嗱，當然主耶穌佢翻嚟嘅時候咧，佢會問你：你嘅教會係咪代祭嘅教會啊？
Because if it wasn't, I'm not taking you to heaven.
咁如果唔係嘅話咧，咁我唔帶你翻天國。
No. He's going to say, do you know me?
主耶穌會問嘅就係話：你認唔認識我？
The reason to be intergenerational is because it is the best way to get to know Jesus.
但係我哋之所以想要代祭咧，嗰個原因就係話代祭可以令到我哋更容易認識耶穌。
So I want you to know we are promoting this not to be intergenerational, but to get to know Jesus.
所以大家要留意啊！我哋提倡嘅代祭嘅時候咧，唔係想你做一個代祭教會，係想你透過代祭咧係更認識主耶穌。
It used to be easier to be intergenerational than what it is today.
咁其實今日咧，想做一個代祭教會咧，都幾容易嘅。
So we're giving an emphasis to it now because we seem to have lost it.
不過因為我哋喪失咗啲咁樣嘅叫做過去嘅經驗啊，所以而家我哋就要學習去能夠做到呢一點。
But most churches are already doing some things intergenerational.
當然啦，我哋見到有啲教會咧，佢哋都嘗試咧係朝住個方向去發展。
How to be intergenerational?
咁如果我哋想要嘅話，點可以做到一個代祭嘅教會咧？
We'll get to that tomorrow afternoon and Sunday morning.
咁我哋喺聽日下晝同埋星日嘅朝早咧，我哋就會講更多關於如何可以作為一個代祭嘅教會。
Let me give you just a little taste right now.
不過我哋可以俾大家即係可以嘗試下一啲味道先。
I already mentioned you need to be intentional about it. You have to plan for it.
咁啱先咪講話咧，你要刻意嘅，要去做一個計劃嘅。
If you don't plan for it, here's what happens.
嗱，如果你唔會計劃做一個代祭教會嘅話咧，你知唔知會發生咩事啊？
I hang out with the young people because I'm young.
咁當我係好中意係黐埋啲青年嘅時候咧，因為我係當時好年輕噶嘛。
Do I look young to you?
嗱，其實如果我好中意黐住啲年青人，你話我仲係咪後生啊？
I'm not young.
其實我唔係好後生啊，
I'm 67 years old.
我67歲啊。
But in my mind, I'm still 17.
但係喺我嘅腦海裏邊咧，喺我想象中咧，我係17歲嘅啫。
What has happened?
咁到底發生咩事啊？
I don't mean to be profound, but I'm going to be
我唔
profound.
係要誇張，不過我誇張啲啦。
Every one of us is a year older than we were last year.
每一個人咧，你都比舊年多咗一年啊嘛，多咗歲啊嘛。
And next year, we're going to get a year older.
咁下一年咧，你又大多一年咯。
And so I still think I'm a youth, but I've passed that a long time ago.
咁其實咧，我仲會想像緊我好後生，其實我已經冇咁後生嘅。
And unless I intentionally do something to go back and include young people, my church will just get older and older and older.
所以除非我刻意地要做啲嘢， 係可以保持我嗰種年輕。如果唔係咧，肯定呢個教會係會越嚟越老化嘅。
I have met with church leaders who are concerned because their youth are leaving the church.
所以好多時候，我哋嘅堂會嘅主任咧就會好關心啊，我哋嘅青年咧點解會離開教會咧？
And I asked these leaders, why didn't you leave the church?
咁有陣時我都會問嗰啲領袖啊，點解你又離開教會啊？
And they say, well, they made me a church elder when I was 20 years old.
咁佢就話啦，我嘅堂會啊，當我20歲嘅時候咧，佢就俾我做長老。
I couldn't leave the church. I was running the church. I couldn't leave the church. I was running the church.
所以我唔能夠離開個教會，我一定要係維持嗰間教會嘅運作啊。
And how old are you now?
咁而家你幾多歲啊？
I'm 60.
60歲啦。
Really?
係咩？
So what 20-year-olds have you put on your church board?
咁你嗰20年裏邊啊，20歲20年裏邊啊，即係嗰個堂董裏邊嘅人係啲咩人嚟㗎？
Oh, we can't do that. We cannot do that. A 20-year-old on the church board? We can't put a 20-year-old on the church board.
He is not in the church board.
He's not 20 anymore. He's 60, and he will not put a 20-year-old on the church board anymore. He, the 60-year-old.
OK， 佢自己去到60歲嘅時候咧，佢就唔會諗住咧要俾一個20歲嘅年輕人咧喺佢嘅堂董會裏邊。
Some old person put him on the church board when he was 20, but he won't do it now himself.
佢後生嘅時候，佢20歲嘅時候，嗰個堂董會就將佢擺落去個堂董會裏邊喎。但係當佢自己去到60歲嘅時候咧，佢又唔想去俾20歲嘅後生仔入個堂董會。
Why won't you do that?
咁我就問點解你唔肯啊？
He's too young.
我話太年輕嘅佢，20歲。
He's not ready.
未準備好。
Were you too young when you were 20?
咁但係當時你20歲，啲人幫你俾你去做堂董會嘅成員嘅時候，你唔係後生咩？
Oh no, I'm a very special person.
唔係啊，因為我好特別。
Remember Balaam's ass. Balaam's ass.
咁大家記得嗰個巴蘭嘅嗰隻驢啊。
God can use that 20-year-old right now.
所以其實咧，今日咧，上帝都可以用個20歲嘅年青人。
So you have to be intentional. It doesn't just happen.
所以大家要去刻意啲做，佢唔會就咁發生嘅。
Mutuality. We're going to practice this during the church service tomorrow.
咁關於相互嘅關係咧，咁我哋明天咧就會同大家一齊去做下呢種咁嘅經驗。
Mutuality basically says, I have something to offer you, and you have something to offer me.
相互嘅關係即係話咧，我會對你有啲貢獻，你都對我有啲貢獻。
There's a tendency for older people to say, I have something to offer you, but you don't have anything to offer me.
通常年長嘅人就會話，我係會可以有貢獻俾你，不過你唔會有啲咩貢獻俾我哋。
Why did my family move? It was because of the children.
點解我嘅父母我哋會經常搬屋咧？因為佢哋為細蚊仔嘅緣故。
Some people who leave the church come back to the church because they have children.
有啲人佢離開咗教會，跟住佢翻返嚟教會喎，點解咧？因為佢哋為細蚊仔嘅緣故。
And the children bring their parents back to the church.
所以其實咧就係細路咧就帶咗啲大人翻教會。
And what about your leadership?
咁所以你嘅嗰個教會嘅嗰種領導係點樣嘅一種領導咧？
Okay, remember your group of 4?
嗱，記住啱先你哋有4人小組。
I want you to now make 2 groups of 2.
4 and then becomes 2 groups。4人咧變成2組，2人一組，2人一組。
It doesn't matter who's who, but just 2 groups of 2.
冇所謂，總之4人小組變成2人嘅小組。
And each group of 2 needs one card and 1 pencil.
咁每2個人一組咧，你需要一張紙同埋一支筆。幫忙派紙，派咗啦係咪啊？啊嗰邊派咗紙啦。
Yeah, speakers are in front of us. I'll explain what we're going to do.
咁我解釋下啦噃。
One of you is going to be the leader.
咁兩個呢邊咧，一個係做領袖嘅，
We're going to try leadership.
因為我哋喺度試下點樣領導啊。
One of you will be the leader and one of you will be the follower.
所以一個領，一個跟。
I want the leader to be whichever one of the two of you is younger.
年紀細嘅做領導，做領袖。
I'll say it another way.
咁我用另一個方法講啦。
I want the older person to be a follower.
年紀大啲嘅你就做跟班。
Good leaders know how to follow.
因為一個好嘅領袖咧，佢懂得點樣跟嘅。
And what we're going to do is, in a moment, I'm going to have the older person take their chair and turn it so that they're facing the back.
嗱，年紀比較大啲嘅，一陣間我哋分組嘅時候咧，你咧就喐一喐你嘅凳，你就面對住門口。
Don't do it yet, but in a moment.
一陣先。
And the older person needs to have the card and the pencil.
咁個年長個咩年紀大啲嗰個，咁你就要嗰支筆同埋要嗰張紙。
So the younger person is going to be able to look at the screen.
咁所以年輕啲嘅咧，你就面對住呢度。
The older person will look at the back.
年紀大啲嗰個咧就面對後邊。
And the younger person will have to describe what they see.
咁嗰個年紀輕啲嘅咧，你就要喺度描寫啦喎，描繪啦喎。
And the older person has to write what they hear.
咁年紀大啲嗰個咧，佢就要去寫出嚟、畫出嚟，或者係有表達出嚟。
Do you understand?
明白啦嗬？
It's not going to be this one. It's going to be something else.
唔係呢個，唔係呢個。
Okay, older person, take your chair and turn it around.
OK， 年紀大啲嘅面向後邊。
And younger person, you cannot look at what they're doing. Younger person,
年紀輕嘅咧，你唔可以望住嗰個年紀大嘅喺度做乜嘢喎？你係淨係望住呢個鏡頭。
okay, you can do it sitting or you can do it standing.
你坐又得，企又得，隨你。
So one more time, the older person cannot look and the younger person cannot look at what they're drawing.
嗱，年紀長嘅，你唔可以望後邊啊，唔係你唔可以望前邊嘛。
You have 60 seconds and here it is.
一分鐘，一分鐘，留意聽。
Okay, 60 seconds, go.
好，一分鐘開始。
Describe this. And time. Okay, take a look. See how well you did.
OK， 睇一睇你畫嘅似唔似？
Show the leader what you did, follower. Show the leader.
好，俾對方睇下你畫得啱唔啱。
All right, leader, make sure you look at how well your follower did.
好，做領袖嘅睇睇你嘅跟班啊，畫得啱唔啱，畫得好唔好。
And leader, I want you to grade them.
嗱，俾分數，俾分數。
Raise your hand as high as they did it accurately.
嗱，你覺得佢做得最好嘅話咧，最好嘅，你舉你。
So this is
舉高
perfect. This is horrible. This is medium. How well did they do?
做得好嘛？做得好係咪啊？
Okay. Okay. Switch places.
OK， 好嗱，而家咧調轉你哋嘅角色，
Older person, you're going to look at the screen.
調轉嘅角色，年紀
Younger
大啲
person,
嘅，
you do not get to look at the screen. Flip the card over. Use the blank side of the card.
將你張紙嗰張卡紙用喺後邊嗰度，話調轉角色開始，唔係未開始。
Now, older person, I have high expectations for you.
嗱，年紀大啲嘅咧，咁我就對你有好大嘅期望㗎啦。
I'm going to give you 60 seconds,
1分鐘，
but after 10 seconds, I'm going to take it off the screen.
但係咧10秒鐘之後咧，我就會熄咗嗰個熒幕㗎啦。
And you're going to have to remember it even though you're losing brain cells.
雖然你嘅腦細胞已經退化係咪？不過你要記好佢。
And then for the last 10 seconds, I'll let you see it again.
咁啊，最深嘅10秒鐘咧，我再俾你睇一次。
Okay? 60 seconds. The first 10 seconds, you can see it. The last 10 seconds, you can describe it the whole time, but you're only going to see it for a short time. You understand?
明白啊 ？OK，
Okay, here we go. Go.
好，開始。
Okay, time.
好，夠鐘。
Follower, I want you to show it to the leader and ask the leader how you did.
好，你就俾對方睇一睇你畫成點樣樣。They still want to finish it.
Leader, how well did they do?
有一各位領袖，你哋覺得嗰啲
Raise your hand how well they did.
舉手睇下佢哋做得好唔好？做得好嘅，哇好。
How many of the leaders don't know what the picture looks like anymore?
有邊幾位佢畫到咧都認唔出係乜嘢嘅？
Here's what it looked like.
你哋係咪要畫到半夜啊？
Okay, you can sit down now.
好，請坐，請坐。Still drawing.
I'm going to ask you to face the front now and go ahead and have a seat.
OK， 好，大家面對呢度嚟。
Let me just share a couple of observations.
咁讓我同大家分享我些少嘅觀察。
If I were your pastor
嗱，如果我係你嘅堂主任嘅話咧，
at your church,
喺你嘅教會裏邊，
I would not do this kind of thing
我唔會做呢啲嘢嘅。
because you can see what happens.
你睇下會發生咩事？
I'm no longer the important person.
我已經唔重要噶啦，
I'm not the expert.
我唔係專家啦，
You don't obey me.
因為你都唔聽我。
I told you to stop and you kept on talking to each other.
我叫你哋停，你哋仲係繼續。
You were much more animated and excited with each other than you are when I'm talking to you.
你哋互相之間嗰種咁樣嘅興奮啊，都已經係壓咗你咁大部分嘅時間，你都唔理我啦。
I'm feeling jealous.
我會好妒忌噶。
Next time, we're just going to have a sermon.
下次我都不如你喺度講長道算啦。
And I don't care if it's a good one or not. You're going to listen to me.
我唔理我嘅講道好唔好，總之你要聽我講道啊。
And if you don't like it, then God doesn't like you.
如果你唔聽我講道咧，上帝就唔中意你噶啦。
Forget this intergenerational stuff.
唔好再講咁多啲咁嘅代際嘅嘢啦。
I'm teasing.
同大家開玩笑。
But I want you to realize that you do lose a sense of control,
你有冇見到你自己都已經失咗控啊？
which raises another question.
所以又帶出咗另外一個問題。
Who's in charge of your church?
喺個場合裏邊咧，邊個係主導啊？邊個掌控緊嗰個場面啊？
Is it the pastor?
係個牧師？
Is it the older people?
係個年紀比較大啲嘅？
Is it the children?
係嗰啲細佬？
Or is it God?
定係上帝？
Because if it's God, then it's out of your control.
嗱，如果係上帝嘅話咧，我哋自己會失咗個控制，因為上帝控制晒啊嘛。
Do you really want that?
想唔想咁樣嘅？
Another observation.
另一個觀察，
I'm going to estimate that 1/4 or more of you were describing it and using hand motions.
我估咧，即係觀察咧，你唔淨係你描寫，你仲喺度喐嚟喐去喺度。
Did you know that they cannot see you?
但係你要知道啊，佢根本都冇望住你噶嘛，佢唔睇你噶嘛，佢自己喺度畫嘢噶嘛，聽住你講噶嘛。
You were exerting a lot of energy and passion.
但你充滿咗熱情啊，有熱誠喺度，哇咁即係好有衝勁咁喺度不停咁描寫。
But did it help them?
咁你話你咁樣描寫，喐嚟喐去幫唔幫到佢啊？
Maybe it did because it helped you.
可能你會幫到啲啦。
So who was helped? The leader or the follower?
所以到底咧係邊個得着幫助啊？係嗰個主持者啊，定係嗰個領袖啊，定係嗰個跟從者啊？
With mutuality, you both benefit.
所以其實咧喺呢種互動中咧，大家都得到幫助。
One more characteristic on how to be intergenerational.
仲有一個特點，
persistence. Persistence.
就係持續性地，
Don't think you do it once and it's taken care of.
你只要做咗，跟住佢就會繼續落去，
You have to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it.
繼續努力咁做落去。
Do it a different way.
咁你可能可以用另外唔同嘅方法去做，
Then do it the same way.
或者你可以同一個方法去做，
Then ask them to come up with another way.
或者大家討論之後咧可以用新嘅方法去做。
And experiment with something you've never tried.
可能你可以嘗試一個從來都未試過嘅方法，
But stay at it. Be persistent.
咁但係咧就繼續去做。
Okay. This is a faith statement.
咁呢個係一個重要嘅一個描寫。
I'll put it differently than what you see on the screen.
咁我用另一種方法去描寫。
If God did not show up at church, would anything be any different?
如果上帝佢唔在場嘅話，你估所發生嘅事會唔會唔同咧？
I can tell you what I have planned for tomorrow at church.
我係話俾你聽，聽日我會做啲咩計劃。
But I will tell you that if God doesn't show up, this whole thing is just going to fall flat on its face.
但係如果明天我哋所做嘅計劃，但係上帝又唔喺在場嘅話咧，所做嘅計劃就變成冇意思。
So is God going to show up tomorrow?
咁你話上帝明天會唔會同我哋同在啊？
We
會出
pray,
現啊？
we pray for it, don't we?
我哋咪為呢件事祈禱咩？
Do we believe it?
我哋又信唔信咧？
Can you count on it?
你信唔信任啊？
Well, then if God's going to show up, then it doesn't depend on me.
嗱，如果上帝明天佢會出現嘅話咧，會在場嘅話咧，咁我係咪對都唔係好重要噶啦？
And I will give a predictive prophecy for tomorrow.
所以我就可以一個預測、預計明天會發生嘅事。
I believe that God will speak to you tomorrow, but it's not going to be through me. It's going to be through somebody else.
我相信明天上帝會同大家講嘢，但係未必係經過我。上帝可能會透過第啲人，會有啲嘢會話俾你聽。
That also means I believe God is going to speak through you to somebody else.
而我又相信話，上帝可能會透過你咧，向另外啲人俾佢哋信息。
Are you open to God speaking through you?
所以個問題就係話，你可唔可以放你自己，讓上帝透過你講嘢咧？
That is what I'm praying for tomorrow for church.
呢個就係我為明天我哋返教會嘅時候，我嘅祈禱。
Oh God, show yourself.
上帝顯示你，彰顯你自己。
Expect God to be present and to communicate through anyone and everyone.
所以期待緊上帝透過每一個人，透過任何人同我哋講嘢。
Are you listening?
你有冇喺度聽咧？
Are you speaking?
你有冇喺度講咧？
Are you doing both?
我哋係咪又聽又講咧？
That's how we get together.
呢個就係我哋點解要聚埋一齊。
Okay, let's see God tomorrow.
我哋明天見上帝。